Ready to level up those leadership skills? You know, you've been asking about it. Today's deep dive is going to be a bit different, but trust me on this.
It's for good, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you'll be the judge.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig into this episode of the Easy English Talks podcast.
Oh, interesting.
And I know what you're thinking.
Designed for folks learning English.
Exactly. But hold on, before you tune out.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The insights in this episode are like pure gold for leaders.
At any level, really.
I mean, regardless of your language skills, we're talking about people skills.
The real deal, yeah.
Not just the usual fluffy advice.
The kind of stuff that makes you roll your eyes.
This episode breaks it down into 7 specific skills.
Okay, I'm liking this already.
Skills that can make or break your success as a leader.
And honestly, I wish I had learned this stuff way earlier in my own career.
Seriously.
Would save me a lot of headaches.
Me too. So much of the time, people get promoted based on their technical skills.
Right, they're the experts in their field.
But then boom,
They're suddenly in charge of a team.
and they're like deer in the headlights.
Exactly. They haven't got a clue how to manage people.
It's like they were handed a toolkit full of screwdrivers and then told to build a house.
I like that analogy. Makes so much sense.
This episode really drives home that point, neglecting people's skills.
Can be a recipe for disaster
It's like setting people up to fail.
without giving them the right tools.
And then we wonder why teams are dysfunctional,
Or why projects go off the rails.
or why talented people end up quitting.
All because we didn't equip them with these essential people skills.
So let's unpack these 7 skills.
Let's do it.
Starting with the first one, they highlight reflective listening.
A classic but often overlooked.
They actually give this great example of how it can be used to de-escalate conflict.
Oh, that's so important in a leadership role.
I was thinking the same thing. Reflective listening, it's more than just hearing what someone is saying, right?
It's so much more than that. It's about truly understanding.
Like getting into their headspace
Yes, and demonstrating that you get their message.
and their emotional state.
Exactly. It's about empathy.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, the episode talks about 2 specific techniques: mirroring and paraphrasing.
Mirroring, I kind of get that.
You reflect back what you hear.
Like if someone says, I'm feeling overwhelmed,
You might respond with, "You're feeling overwhelmed."
it seems so basic.
It is basic, but it's powerful.
It shows you're actually listening,
And that you care.
not just waiting for your turn to talk,
Right. And then there's paraphrasing.
which is taking it a step further.
Instead of just repeating their words,
You put what you heard into your own words
to show you really understand.
and give them the chance to correct you if you're off base.
Exactly. The episode also makes a big point about not interrupting,
Oh, that's a tough one.
especially when you're eager to jump in with solutions.
Or you think you already know what they're going to say.
But resisting that urge is crucial
To create that safe space for the other person.
to really express themselves fully.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So reflective listening, it's about slowing down
Being present in the moment,
and truly absorbing what the other person is saying.
like a sponge, sinking it all in,
And the cool thing is you can use this skill in any situation,
not just with your team.
with your family,
Friends.
even that annoying neighbor.
Okay. Maybe not the neighbor, but you get the idea.
Okay, so moving on to the second skill, assertive communication.
Now, this one can be tricky.
I can see that.
Yeah,
This is not about being a jerk, right?
definitely not. It's not about being aggressive.
Or bossy.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Between being direct,
And respectful,
it's about advocating for your needs.
while still acknowledging the needs of others.
I imagine this is where a lot of new leaders struggle.
Oh, absolutely. They either go too far one way,
They become pushovers,
afraid of conflict,
so they get walked all over
or they swing too far the other way.
and become dictators,
Yeah, bulldozing their way through conversations.
alienating everyone in the process.
So assertive communication, it's about that delicate balance
Finding that middle ground,
where you can communicate clearly,
set boundaries.
but still maintain positive relationships.
The episode even gives some helpful phrases.
To practice assertive communication,
Like instead of saying, get this done by tomorrow,
you could try, it's important that we have this finalized by tomorrow. Can you make it a priority?
it's subtle, but it makes a huge difference.
The first one sounds like a command,
The second one is more collaborative.
like you're inviting them to be part of the solution.
And assertive communication isn't just about giving instructions,
It's about delegating effectively.
giving constructive feedback.
And oh boy, saying no,
Oh, that's a tough one.
especially for people pleasers.
Or those who hate to disappoint others.
But learning to say no is essential.
For protecting your time,
Energy.
your sanity.
And it allows you to focus on the things that really matter.
Okay, so the third skill they talk about is managing different performance levels.
Every leader deals with this.
It's the reality of having a team.
You've got your high performers.
Those who are always crushing it.
And then you've got folks who are struggling.
And everything in between.
And the key here is to tailor your approach to each individual.
You can't treat everyone the same.
And expect amazing results.
It's like a gardener tending to different types of plants.
Some need more sun.
Some need more shade.
Some need more water.
You have to figure out what each one needs to thrive.
That's a great way to put it. So for high performers, you might give them more autonomy,
More freedom to do their thing.
opportunities for growth.
Challenging projects.
While for those who are struggling, you might provide more support,
More guidance.
maybe even additional training,
It's about meeting people where they are.
and recognizing that people's performance can change over time.
Someone who's a rock star today.
Might need more help tomorrow.
It's about constantly observing
Assessing
and adjusting your approach.
to meet the evolving needs of your team.
And sometimes, despite your best efforts,
You might have someone who's just not a good fit.
for the team.
Or the role,
Those are the tough conversations.
where you have to make that difficult decision.
To let someone go.
Even if you like them as a person,
It's never easy.
but sometimes it's necessary.
For the health of the team.
And the organization.
Okay, so let's move on to the fourth skill: encouraging idea sharing.
And they specifically link this to group meetings.
Oh, boy, meetings.
As it can be so productive.
Or a total time suck.
It all depends on how they're run.
And whether people feel safe to share their ideas.
That's a key point. Psychological safety.
People need to feel comfortable speaking up.
Even if their ideas are half-baked.
Or go against the grain.
If you don't have that safety,
You're only going to hear from the loudest voices.
the most confident ones,
And you'll miss out on all those other perspectives.
the ones that could lead to breakthrough innovations.
So how do we create that safe space?
Well, the episode gives some practical tips.
I'm all ears.
One of the most important things is to explicitly invite ideas.
Like literally say, hey, I want to hear your thoughts.
Exactly. And make it clear that you value everyone's input.
Even if it's not the right answer.
Right. Ask open-ended questions.
Encourage people to build on each other's ideas.
And avoid shutting down ideas too quickly.
Even if an idea seems crazy at first.
There might be a gem hidden in there.
And always acknowledge people's contributions.
Even if their idea isn't ultimately implemented.
It's about showing respect.
And fostering a culture of collaboration.
Okay, so the fifth skill they dive into is fueling people's strengths.
Ah, this is one of my favorites.
Me too. I've always believed that people are at their best.
When they're doing work that plays to their natural talents.
It's so demotivating to be stuck in a role.
That doesn't utilize your strengths.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
It just doesn't work.
The episode actually mentions a couple of assessments.
For identifying strength.
Oh, really?
The Clifton Strengths Assessment.
I've heard of that one.
It identifies your top 5 talent themes.
And helps you understand how to leverage them.
Exactly. And I also mentioned the High 5 test.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's a free alternative that can also provide valuable insights.
I love that they're giving people concrete tools.
To put this skill into practice.
It's one thing to talk about fueling strengths in theory.
It's another thing to actually do it.
Okay, moving on to skill number 6, navigating rivalry.
This one can be tricky.
Especially in high-performing teams.
Where there's a lot of ambition.
And drive.
Healthy competition is great.
But it can easily turn toxic.
Leading to resentment.
Sabotage.
And a whole lot of drama.
The episode emphasizes that ignoring rivalry is the worst thing you can do.
Hoping it will just go away on its own.
It won't. You have to address it head on.
So what do you do?
Well, first acknowledge that it exists.
Don't pretend it's not happening.
Have open and honest conversations.
With the individuals involved.
Try to figure out the root cause.
Is it a personality clash?
A competition for resources.
A misunderstanding.
Once you understand the underlying issue,
You can start working towards a solution.
and the episode stresses the importance of not taking sides.
Even if you have a favorite.
It's about being a neutral mediator
Helping them find common ground.
and rebuild trust
Sometimes you might need to restructure roles.
or responsibilities
Maybe even teams.
to minimize friction.
And in some cases,
You might need to help someone find a better fit elsewhere.
it's about doing what's best for everyone involved.
Okay, and finally, the skill they call the most important, inner confidence
This is the foundation
of effective leadership,
especially for new leaders.
who often feel like they're in over their heads.
Imposter syndrome is so common.
That feeling like you're not good enough,
Like you're going to be exposed as a fraud.
it could be paralyzing.
But the episode does a great job of normalizing those feelings.
It's like, hey, It's okay to feel this way.
But don't let it stop you.
So how do we push through those feelings of self-doubt?
Well, the episode gives a few strategies.
Tell me. I need all the confidence I can get.
One is to focus on your past successes.
Like, create a mental highlight
In
reel.
all the times you've rocked it.
Remind yourself of your capabilities.
Another technique is to reframe self-doubt as an opportunity for growth.
Instead of thinking, I don't know enough,
Think, this is a chance to learn something new.
it's about shifting your mindset.
From negative to positive.
And remember, building confidence is a journey.
Not a destination.
It's about consistently challenging yourself
Pushing your boundaries.
and celebrating your progress along the way.
Even the small wins matter.
Wow, this episode is packed with so much great stuff.
I know, right?
And it's amazing to think that it was originally created for English language learners.
It just goes to show
That the fundamentals of good leadership,
are universal.
no matter what language you speak,
Or what industry you're in.
these 7 skills are the building blocks.
Of effective and inspiring leadership.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Let's take a moment to let these insights sink in.
Breathe it all in. Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It is. So let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about how we can actually apply these skills.
In the real world.
Because I love theory as much as the next person.
Me too.
But what's the point of knowledge?
If we don't use it.
Exactly. So let's say you're in a team meeting
Okay, I'm picturing it.
and someone presents an idea that you're not totally sold on.
Happens all the time.
What's your first instinct?
To jump in and point out all the flaws.
Yes. That's my default mode too.
Especially if you're a problem solver by nature.
Like, here's why that won't work.
But hold on, before you do that.
Okay, you've got my attention.
Remember reflective listening. Instead of launching into a critique.
I could try to understand their thinking.
Exactly, ask questions.
Like, help me see what you're seeing.
What are the key benefits you see?
Walk me through your logic.
You might uncover some brilliant insights.
That I would have missed otherwise.
And even if you still have concerns.
You've created a more collaborative atmosphere.
Respectful, too.
Okay, so another scenario.
Hit me.
You've got a team member who's consistently missing deadlines.
Ugh, I've been there.
This is where assertive communication comes in.
Right.
Instead of letting frustration build up,
Or dropping those passive-aggressive hints
you schedule a one-on-one.
and address it directly.
I've noticed you've missed the last few deadlines.
Can you help me understand what's happening?
Boom. Direct, but not accusatory.
And then here's where you can bring in reflective listening.
To understand their perspective.
Are they overwhelmed?
Do they need more support?
Are there roadblocks they haven't communicated?
This is making me realize how interconnected these skills are.
They really are. It's like a toolkit.
You can use different tools for different situations.
Or combine them in creative ways.
Okay, so what about confidence?
The foundation of good leadership.
But what if you're battling imposter syndrome?
That feeling like you're not good enough.
Like you're going to be found out.
It's so common.
Especially in new roles.
Or when you're facing big challenges.
So how do we deal with it?
Remember those strategies from the episode?
Refresh my memory.
Focus on your past successes.
Create that mental highlight reel.
Of all the times you've crushed it.
I like that. Reminding yourself of your capabilities.
And reframe self-doubt.
As an opportunity for growth.
Instead of, I don't know enough.
This is a chance to learn.
It's all about mindset.
Shifting from negative to positive.
And remember, building confidence is a process.
Not a one-time event.
It takes time and effort.
So what stood out to you the most from this episode?
You know what really struck me?
Right.
How this episode aimed at English language learners
Yeah.
boils down these complex leadership concepts.
Into such simple language.
It's like they've stripped away all the fluff.
And got to the core of what matters.
The essence of good leadership.
And it makes me think,
What?
maybe we overcomplicate things sometimes.
In the corporate world.
With all our fancy framework.
And jargon-filled theories.
Maybe great leaders.
It's really about these fundamental human skills. Communicating.
Connecting.
Empowering.
About being human.
And building authentic relationships.
Creating an environment.
Where everyone feels valued.
And supported.
That's what it's all about.
So as we move into the final part of this deep dive,
Okay.
I want you to think about this.
I'm ready.
I want you to think about this. How can our listeners start putting these skills into practice? Like today.
In their everyday lives.
Exactly. What's one small but meaningful action they can take?
I like that. So here's a challenge for our listeners. Think about a conversation you're going to have today. It could be with anyone.
A coworker.
A friend.
A family member.
As you go into that conversation, Make a conscious effort to practice just one of these skills.
Stuff one.
Yeah, pick one and really focus on it.
So maybe they could try reflective listening,
Really tuning in to what the other person is saying.
even if it's a topic they don't usually find interesting.
Exactly. Or maybe they practice assertive communication,
Expressing their needs directly,
setting a boundary,
but respectfully.
always respectfully,
The key is to make a deliberate effort,
to put these skills into action.
even in small ways.
Because those small actions add up over time.
They can really transform our relationship.
And our leadership style.
Now, here's one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
As you go about your day,
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to the leaders in your life,
The ones you admire.
the ones who inspire you.
What do they do differently?
How do they interact with others?
Do they listen attentively?
Do they communicate clearly and respectfully?
Do they empower those around them?
By observing those role models
We can learn so much.
about how to embody these skills ourselves.
Remember, leadership is a journey.
It's not about being perfect.
Or having all the answers.
It's about constantly learning.
And evolving.
The beauty of this journey,
Is that it benefits everyone,
not just ourselves.
but the people around us.
That's so true.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
I've enjoyed exploring these ideas with you, and I'm feeling inspired.
To put these skills into practice.
Me too. So, to our listeners,
Out there in the world.
keep learning
Keep growing.
and keep leading.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Until then, happy leading.